Welcome to TBG Talks, Expert Insights for Your Business Success, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of accounting and finance, consulting, business, and the employee experience with experts at the Monadeo Group. In each episode, we'll sit down with our firm's thought leaders to discuss the latest trends, challenges, and strategies shaping the industries we serve and the modern-day accounting workforce. Today's episode of TBG Talks is hosted by myself, Valerie Busella, Content Marketing Specialist here at the Monadeo Group, and I am sitting down with our partner and service providers industry leader, Steve Turner. In his current role, Steve is responsible for business development, geographic expansion activities, and coordinating the firm's industry specialists to ensure our clients are best serviced within our service providers industry. Steve stays current on technical matters and business concerns related to the sectors within the service providers industry while ensuring that the firm's professionals are well trained to handle our clients' specific business needs. He's also responsible for identifying new ways the firm can best help new and existing clients grow and respond to changing business needs. Steve is here today to discuss what growing businesses should consider when selecting an accounting partner, why strategic guidance matters more than ever, and how technology, real-time data, and industry expertise are shaping the role of today's accounting firms. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, Steve. Welcome to TBG Talks.
Thanks, Val.
So thanks for being here today, and we would love to have a discussion about kind of going back to the basics and having considerations for businesses as they select an accounting firm. So kind of backing it up a little bit, could you tell us a little bit about your background as our firm's service providers industry leader?
Sure, happy to. So broadly, I've been with the firm for about 17 years, which represents the entirety of my career in public accounting. And during that time, I've worked with a broad range of industries, including the service providers industries and their participants within it. This would be things like restaurant and retail operations, and I'll go into that just a little bit more of what service providers consists of. But throughout my time at the firm, I've worked as now an audit partner, so completing financial statement audits and doing a range of consulting. And I think my favorite piece that I've got to do in my role throughout my time at the firm, has been connecting people and connecting internal people with our clients and connecting clients with our clients and connecting clients with other resources to help them grow. So I think that's a lot of what's led to my background. A lot of what my background has been that's led me to my role as the firm's service providers industry leader. And I wanted to go a little bit more into what service providers actually is and what it consists of, because definitionally, or by name rather, it's I don't think it captures how diverse of an industry sector that this is for the firm. I mentioned previously, but it includes restaurant retail. It also includes auto dealers, consumer services companies, and professional services companies. So when you think professional services, could be other CPA firms, could be law firms, could be architecture and engineering firms. And I think the glue that holds all these together is each of these industry sectors or segments are client or customer facing. So it's business to customer, business to consumer. And that's kind of the glue that connects all of these.
Awesome. I think it's great that you've worked with so many different types of businesses, and I think it perfectly tees up this conversation. Like I mentioned, I would really like to have a discussion on what considerations businesses should keep in mind as they're looking for an accounting firm. Obviously, there's a lot of factors to consider, and I think it can be confusing for businesses if they don't know what to look for. So I would love this episode to kind of be a resource for this process. So as you mentioned, you have experience working with a number of different types of businesses. So to set the stage, could you tell our listeners about some of the common financial management challenges that you're seeing in growing businesses today?
Happy to. I think this is a really important topic, especially for businesses that are in different growth stages of their life cycle. And oftentimes when a company or a leader thinks of a CPA firm, the first thing that they think of is, all right, great, I need someone to do my taxes. I need a tax preparer. And that's really just one very small sliver of what a CPA firm should be to a company. And I think that's representative when we talk about common financial management challenges. Taxes are prevalent in every single business, whether you're a pass-through entity or a corporate entity, or whether you're a company that has to pay and remit sales tax or other franchise type taxes. It's taxes touch every single business, so that's often why it's a financial management challenge, and that's also what people think about when they think about a CPA firm. Some other financial management challenges could be that people can be a financial management challenge. Do I have enough? Do I have too few? Am I lined up for the next stage of my business? The other thing that I think is pretty universal, regardless of business size, you can never have enough, you can never have enough of the right data. And the right data could be different for different businesses. You might hear the term like KPI or key performance indicator. But the key thing here with those key performance indicators is they're unique to your industry or your business. And if you don't have that information, you're going to struggle with making the right decisions for your stage of your business, where it is now and where it's going. And that's always such a balance. I know we'll get into it a little bit more with kind of selecting an accounting firm and making those decisions. But at its core, I think every financial management challenge is towing the line between the balance of where I am now and where I want to go and where I'm going to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a great point about how it's more than just the tax. I think a lot of business owners, like you mentioned, when they think of accounting, they hire an accounting firm, they really are thinking of more of the traditional bookkeeping. So why is it important for business owners to have that strategic partner rather than just a traditional bookkeeper?
So I think the biggest reason is you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know necessarily what's coming. A CPA or an accounting firm is really much more than just, like I said, either the tax preparer or a traditional bookkeeper. Those are history-based mechanisms. You know, you file a tax return for the past year. You keep books and you finalize books for the past year. Neither of those functions are strategy driven necessarily. Neither of those functions help you to understand like the why behind what's happening. Neither of those functions help you to kind of understand where you might be going and how you're going to get there. And that's really what a business owner should look for when they're thinking about choosing a strategic accounting partner. They should be thinking about, again, I know I'm going to repeat this a lot, but where do I want to be in 1, 3, 5, 10 years? And make sure that you're selecting a firm and a partner that can help get you there and guide you along the way. And a strategic accounting partner is a partner that's going to also make other introductions for you. I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite things about this career has been meeting people and connecting people. If you need a great attorney, that's not us, but we know lots of great attorneys that can help a company. If you need any other professional advisor along the way, it might not be a CPA advisor, but we can help connect you through our broad network. And again, business owners really should be focusing on highest and best use, which is running their business and growing their business.
Those are all great points. I think, like you mentioned, obviously, like the traditional bookkeeping is so important, but the strategy behind all of this is equally, if not more important. So I think one huge factor in looking what business owners should be expecting from their accounting firm is kind of the idea of technology and AI. As we all know, today's accounting landscape is changing very quickly. And I think a lot of businesses have that traditional idea of what an accounting firm can do for them, as you mentioned, but we know that that has changed and accounting firms can provide so much more. So can you speak on kind of the technology and AI component of it?
Happy to. So, in the same way that technology and AI is changing rapidly for business owners within their own business, and you could think about maybe a restaurant franchise chain that is linking POS, their point of sale system, their register, to their inventory metrics and their ordering, to their scheduling and staffing, to their their prep and production. the way that that is really transforming your business, AI is and will continue to reshape our accounting firm business. And I think at its core, AI represents a move away from task based function to a strategy based function. If we kind of take a step back and we assume or we make an assumption that AI can help us get that core data that I spoke about, take that core data and have it readily and contemporaneously accessible for us. What would you do at that time? You could use that time a lot more meaningfully to, focus on the next steps for your business. And same thing for an accounting firm too. You really need to make sure that when you're making a selection of a strategic accounting partner, what is their relationship with technology? What is their relationship with AI, and not their relationship now, but how are they lined up to align with you over the next period of time, 1, 3, 5, 10 years? What does that look like? Because what we're talking about right now in terms of technology and AI, I think you have to really focus on how you're going to use it into the future, not how we're using it right now. Because as we continue to see with GPT, generative predictive text, like it's that is growing so rapidly, you can speak to it in a normal verbal cadence. You can use it much more organically than any traditional technology. You don't need to know how to use it to use it.
Those are all great points. I think it's definitely something for businesses to keep in mind when they are looking for an accounting firm and asking those questions to see, like you mentioned, how are they going to grow, not just what they're doing now, but how are they going to be able to help you in the future too. And kind of switching gears, what should businesses look for in an accounting partner when it comes to software integration and scalability?
Yeah, great question here. I'll kind of answer it in two different parts. So, from a software integration perspective, you really need to be thoughtful in the decision that you're making to not solve today's problem, but solve today's problem and tomorrow's problem. And this goes to both pieces of your question in terms of scalability as well. But from software integration perspective, does it make sense to you as a business owner that you would take a bank statement and then manually enter it into, let's say, a QuickBooks or other platform? Oh, and then you're going to manipulate the data to get actionable reporting. It takes time to do that, and it's labor intensive. It's fallible. It's easy to make mistakes when doing that. Versus, oh, by the way, let's build an electronic bridge to link your real-time bank accounts and bank statements to your accounting software so it's populating real time. And then, oh, by the way, let's think big picture into the future. What happens if you applied 100 times more volume to your operation? Could you keep up with it the way you're doing it now? Uh, Probably not, is the answer for most businesses, especially if we're talking about something extreme like a 100x. But you really need to be making these decisions with a longer runway. What's right for me down the road? And same thing with scalability when you're talking about picking an accounting firm. I think you really can have your cake and eat it too. You can have a firm that has a really deep, scalable bench with a personal touch to it as well. And I think that when you're talking about making a connection with a service provider like a CPA firm, like an accounting firm, you should have someone that's a great quarterback that knows and learns your business and leads a team that knows and learns your business as well. And not just your single location, for example, but maybe as you talk into growing to 5 or 10 locations. There are different stages and categories of growth that you really need to make sure that your accounting firm or accounting partner is prepared to grow with you, and they're not just maxed out with the current state of affairs that you're in.
Awesome. Those are all great points. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of real-time data and how it impacts decision-making for leadership teams? I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'd like to revisit that topic.
Yeah, happy to. So we see this so often in the service provider space. And what I mean by that is, like, we see the bad example of this. where we're not seeing real-time data, and no leaders or ownership team are using that information to make any actionable decision. My view and approach on this is it's pretty meaningless to record and manage the data if it's not going to influence some sort of action. And when you're talking about like stale historical data, well, you already have too many people, or already have too few people, or you already haven't bought enough inventory to go into the next quarter or next year, because the data is stale. Conversely, if you have good real-time data and it's driven in a way that's like digestible, and think about back to like those key performance indicators, should an owner be deep diving into a general ledger every day? No. Should an owner be deep diving into a bank statement every day? The answer is maybe, but probably no. As you continue to scale and grow, the owner needs real time, summarized, actionable data to actually make decisions for their organization. And I think that that's something that we find is so lacking across organizations, big and small. And what we find is businesses and business owners really figure out a way to unlock capacity and capabilities and runway when they figure out this challenge of real time, actionable data.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of these companies just don't have the time to do that, which is all the more important for them to pair with a strategic partner, somebody who does have the time to be able to help them have access to that real-time data. So a lot of firms kind of tout this team-based approach. Can you describe what that means and how it benefits clients?
Yeah, certainly. So, Bonadio uses a team-based approach, and what that means to us is you're going to have a quarterback, or maybe it would be referred to as like a client relationship partner, or in my case, it could be an industry leader, someone who has a level of technical expertise, but also has broad industry knowledge and knowledge of our team. And I often like to use an analogy here of why this is most effective. So if you go back in history with accounting firms, less complexity, people like to think of it as more personal touch. I don't think we've lost any of that, but people like to think of it. You know, you might go into your CPA's office and give them a shoebox of information, and then walk out with some put together financial statements, maybe a tax return. But in that situation, the accountant has to know everything about everything. And that is impossible. And it is progressively, increasingly impossible as you move forward. The analogy that I like to use is one about maybe a football team. If you think about a football team, they have one unified goal, which is winning the game. But if you were to put a lineman in at quarterback, they're going to fail. Or if you were to put a quarterback in at on the line as the center that snaps the ball, they're going to get crushed. And the reason is because that's not their expertise, that's not their focus. A wide receiver is supposed to be fast, agile, run down the field, and they're great at that because they can focus on how to be the best at just that. And I think that's why the team-based approach in a CPA firm works really well. If it's organized by a quarterback or a coach, you can use the entire team to move down the field in a meaningful, cohesive way. And it's kind of a view that it's better than the sum of the parts to a certain extent. And I think that the way it benefits clients is you have a better idea of you don't know what you don't know if you're told by an expert. You also have a lot of great different perspective from a team of very capable, highly qualified professionals. Not to say that one highly qualified professional doesn't know what they're doing, but it's too much information at too fast a pace to be an expert in every single thing, and things will be missed. And you might be keeping the lights on by using this one person approach, but after a while they'll get beat down, things will be missed, and I think the business will suffer as a result.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the team-based approach just makes more sense for like optimizing everything overall. I mean, I think being able to communicate between the different things that are going on can help find opportunities. I do think that a sports analogy always makes everything make a lot more sense. And I do think that you're not even the first guest to use a sports analogy. I think John Miller did as well. So it always helps makes things a little bit more clear. So you mentioned industry experience. That is another huge factor that's often brought up as a differentiator when looking at different accounting firms. So why does it matter so much, and how can it impact a company's financial strategy?
Yeah, I think it's so important because we're not advising on accounting. We're advising on running a business. And you really can't do that if you don't have specific business or industry expertise and your team doesn't have specific industry experience and expertise. And you think about service providers and what would it take to run a chain of successful franchise restaurants or businesses? What would it take to run a large, successful online retail business? If you've never worked with it and you've never learned the business as an advisor and how owners look at and view their own businesses, you're not going to be effective. No one is buying accounting guidance or specifically tax preparation work, plugging in the figures. They're buying a comprehensive solution. And I think that's the reason that that team-based approach works so well and why it matters so much. And also why when you're choosing a firm, what might get the job done right now in terms of, like I said, keeping the lights on, that's good enough. But I would kind of encourage business owners to think about, what are you missing out on? Are you missing out on 20% more growth because you are in the weeds on something that an advisor or a professional should be helping you with? Are you getting bogged down by having your hands in too many things? So again, like partnering with a firm or an advisor that has direct industry experience, I think is going to make a notable difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more and more firms are offering kind of an integrated financial services approach. What are the benefits of bundling accounting, tax, planning services, kind of all under one roof?
Yeah, I like to think about fees for professional services in two ways and like how you might budget for them. You, regardless of the price itself, uh, business owners need to make sure that they're finding value in those fees. Doesn't mean that cheaper is better, more expensive is better. It does mean that something that's predictable, like you said, is the most important piece. Predictable, or I like to say transparent. Why is this costing what it costs? Uh, is there something that if I'm unhappy or not finding value at that certain level, is there something that can be changed slightly to accomplish a better outcome? And I think that when you're talking about budgeting, it's not that you're going to save a penny in one area and be better off. I think oftentimes we find and we work with businesses that are coming from situations where they may have been penny wise, pound foolish. They saved on fees, but they missed out on a ton of valuable credits. They missed out on a ton of valuable insight to help grow their business.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So zooming out a little bit, for business owners that are juggling a million priorities, what are a few signs that it is time for them to level up and really level up their financial operations and bring in outside expertise?
So, if a business owner is encountering stagnated growth, if they're encountering erosion in gross margin, if they are encountering an increase in like personal stress too, I think that that's a time to really like revisit or consider making a change. And not only considering making a change, meaning just getting the same service from a different provider, but really like revisiting and rethinking how you are utilizing your CPA and your advisor. I think that we talk to and we work with a lot of businesses that they think, oh, Bonadio is either too big or we're fine with what we're doing. And sure, again, might be the case. The business may go on, but what if you reimagine and re-envision the way that you use your accounting system? What if all your data was contemporaneous? What if it was all linked? What if it was you maintained oversight and control while not being caught in the weeds? What would you do with your day? Would you be making new connections? Would you be working, a lot of people like to say, working on the business rather than working in the business, meaning working on strategy and growth. And I think that's like a key component. We often have owners and companies that come to us where they feel that they've outgrown their current CPA relationship and are ready for the next step. And again, you want to find a firm like Bonadio that is going to be scalable into the future for you too.
I think when selecting a long-term accounting partner, what would be some of the questions that business leaders should be asking that they might not think of? I know we touched on a lot of different factors today of different things that they should consider, but what would be maybe just like one or two questions that they should ask that might not immediately come to mind?
I think it's a people question to some degree. Capabilities is a big thing when you're considering an accounting partner, but a people question too. Who are the people that you're going to be working with more regularly? Do you get along with them? Who are your people's people, if you may? Who are the team? What's the long-term trajectory of the firm and the team that you may be working with? And I think that the more that you can feel comfortable with that, the more that it's going to be a trusted advisor relationship. There's going to be two-way communication with it. And the more you talk, the more open that both parties are, both sides of the business relationship, the better the outcome is going to be. And I think the more value an owner is going to find in that too.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely asking about the people is a great first step. And then for someone listening today who is actually considering making a change in how they manage their financial operations, what would be the first step that you'd recommend to getting this process moving?
Yeah, I would tell you to, before you even start the process of reaching out, I think it's important to kind of sit and have some internal reflection and maybe some dialogue with your team of like, what's working, what's not working. And then, like I said, where do I want to be? If you're happy being where you are forever, I would prompt you, maybe you don't need a change. Maybe it's fine. But if you're looking to grow, if you're looking to change, if you're looking to expand how you work in your business and change the way that you work in your business, I would tell you that internal reflection is a great first step. From there, I think I would tell you, similar, there's firms out there like Bonadio, or similar to Bonadio, but I think like I referenced, the people connection is going to be that next important step. Do you click? Are you looking for a firm that's growth oriented and entrepreneurial like Bonadio? Are you looking for something that might be a little more stiff feeling and professional, like a big four firm where you don't care about interacting with your team as much? But it starts with that internal reflection.
Wrapping up, just for fun, do you have any podcast or book recommendations for our listeners? It does not need to be related to accounting or anything business related. It can just be anything that you're loving right now. It also can be related to accounting if you do have something.
Sure. So I'll say that my recommendations don't have a specific correlation to accounting. One thing I've always loved about this business is getting to meet entrepreneurs and hear about their story, hear about what makes them tick. And to that kind of vein, one of my favorite podcasts, in fact, one of my only podcasts that I listen to, is called How I Built This with Guy Raz, and it's an NPR podcast. And each episode, there's a couple different versions of how they structure episodes. One's like, one might be question based, where people can call in. The other is a story about how a business started and grew. And I love popping those on, even during a work day, and listening to other business owners' stories along the way. And I think that business owners within the service providers industry and beyond can learn a ton through that too. And if you're not learning anything, then you can commiserate with the challenges along the way. So How I Built This with Guy Raz.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. For our listeners, we will be linking Steve's recommendation in the episode description on our website and our Spotify. All right. Well, that is all we have for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, Steve.
Thanks so much, Phil. Great talking with you.
That wraps up our interview with Steve Turner. We hope you found this episode insightful and informative. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes featuring our thought leaders. And if you're interested in checking out Steve's podcast recommendation, it has been linked on our Spotify as well as the TBG Talks page of our website. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.